Welcome, everyone. This is the Alliance for Peacebuilding Digital Peacebuilding Community of Practice, as well as the University of Notre Dame's Afghanistan program on peace and development. This is a co-hosted event today, and we are just waiting a few more minutes until more of our audience joins us. So hold tight while we admit people into the room here with us. Welcome to those of you joining us. We're just holding on for another minute here while others are entering the room with us. If I can ask all of our audience members to please mute yourselves. Thank you as you enter with us. All right, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lisa Shirk. I work with the Alliance for Peacebuilding's Digital Peacebuilding Program. This is our monthly working group for that, for those of us who focus on peace tech and how to use technology for humanitarian aid, development, and peacebuilding. This is also a co-hosted webinar today with the University of Notre Dame's Afghanistan program on peace and development, which is also looking at how technology might aid the people of Afghanistan. As we all know, the last year has brought a lot of transition to Afghanistan, and the United States has been involved in the region for many decades now. And the people of the United States, who many of us in the audience today are often thinking about how might we express solidarity with the people of Afghanistan. And I'm happy that today's guest, Mr. Nasrat Khalid from the organization Aseel, will provide us all with some opportunities for peace efforts between those of us outside of Afghanistan, whether we're in the US or in another country, and those people within Afghanistan. So I first learned about Aseel, this organization that provides aid to Afghans, from National Public Radio, but they've also received attention from Time Magazine. And it's just a really fascinating example of how technology enables us to make people-to-people relationships in new ways. With that, I'm going to pass the floor to Mr. Nasrat Khalid. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Glad to be here. I would love to, keep this as informal as possible, given that we are a tech company and we like to keep it informal and more hands-on and practical. So I would start with sharing my screen and just going through our presentation here. Yep, very glad to be here. So Aseel is a platform. I think, don't think many of us out here would not be in some ways engaged in technology nowadays. We know it plays such a big role in our lives, and I'm lucky to be somebody who grew up with technology, although as I was growing up, we were refugees in Pakistan, and we didn't have access to a lot of official learning possibilities. So it was good that the internet at the time was pretty new, and there weren't a lot of we would say, academic settings of learning technology. So a lot of self-learning was involved in that process. Yeah, as I grew up, I got fascinated more with technology. As Lisa mentioned, I'm from Afghanistan, but I spent most of the last 15 years working on different countries using technology to support the development of different countries in South Asia, but also a lot of focus on Afghanistan, where I'm from, and a big portion of our team is also in Afghanistan right now. Some of them are joining us in this webinar. So salam to the Aseel team, whoever is there. So I'll get to it. Aseel does two things. We're a platform. So a platform in the tech world or marketplace enables multiple initiatives to run through an app or one interface. In this case, we have an iOS mobile application that you can have on your Apple phones, an Android application for Google or Samsung users, and a website, which is aseelapp.com. And there's so many other pieces to it, but for a user perspective, that's what it is. Today's presentation is only focused on Afghanistan because I know most of the audience in here and everyone joining us today is somehow related to that. We do have some of our work in Turkey and some other countries as well, but for the most part, we started as our first country, and our first operations was in Afghanistan, and we're majority focused in Afghanistan right now. So as the context of this presentation today, we're focused on humanitarian development and peace building. The peace building component, I believe, is an area that's the most broadest, and you might think humanitarian development is pretty broad too. However, I think these two areas directly work with the peace building component, and so most of my focus is going to be on the do good part and the buy good part. So in Aseel, the do good is the humanitarian part, and the buy good is the development part, which is handicraft, handmade items. And this is all powered by our backend system. We have an intellectual property backend system. It's called Firni. And for those of you who know Afghanistan or have been to Afghanistan, Firni is the rice pudding, the Afghan rice pudding. It's a dish that we usually have quite often in Afghanistan. And so that's our backend system that makes everything possible, from talking to search engines, to talking to mobile apps, to the website, to the Umaid IDs, you name it. Everything is in the backend system. So the two areas that we work on, the do good and the buy good part, they are both very relevant to Afghanistan, both very essential and fundamental to Afghanistan right now. When we started Aseel 5 years ago, I had worked with the World Bank and the US State Department and other institutions, and I think there was a pretty big sort of, me being an Afghan, living in Afghanistan, working in Afghanistan for 10 years, and then working on the region. There was a lot of, I would say, pressure on me with the amount of impact that I was making with these big institutions. So I think given that I was young and I had a lot of passion, I still do, I thought there might be another way of doing things. And so Afghanistan at the time, from my perspective, in 2001, I think we started working on very fundamental issues, building institutions, institutions, and things like that. So at the time that I really went to Afghanistan, 2009, just after being a refugee in Pakistan, I thought it was kind of in that second level of development, and so I was able to sort of build up on what was already built in that 10 years and really do these small jobs. I started with teaching in what we call Tahniq Sanawi, which is the Technical Vocational Institute in Afghanistan. And so fast forward, working with all those institutions, I thought one of the projects that I worked on and I was very passionate was, and then also my background of being a technical person, self-taught computer infrastructure engineer. I thought mixing them up and giving people the ability to buy handmade products from Afghanistan directly would sort of get rid of many hurdles that people face in the process. So this is 2017. I leave the World Bank and I wanted to create an online platform for Afghan artisans to sell their product. Now, at this time, I'm an institution baby, you would say. So getting into this entrepreneurial side and really understanding from a perspective of when we were talking to our clients, it was like, okay, what do we do with $100 million, the trade and things like that, to now coming in, creating a platform and selling my first product, which was, I think, $15. And the fact that it took me, I think, over a year to create that first initial product, to get $15 of sale, the first sale that we had, was huge. And understanding what the flaws are at really getting the Afghan products and broad of other countries, into global markets. So that's where we started. We launched the Aseel platform, the handmade part. And remember, at that time, do good does not exist because the country had not collapsed. And our focus was mainly on building up on that second level that I kind of mentioned. So we launched in the Afghan embassy in DC in 2019, very excited and just pushing through, adding vendors in Afghanistan, really understanding, what are the problems? What is the supply chain issue? What is the fintech issue? How do we get payments from when you buy something with your credit card to somebody who lives in Bamiyan province or lives in Nuristan province? It was quite an experience. We started with 8 vendors and we went on from there. We kept on growing month over month until COVID happened, and that was quite a time for us, and I'm sure a lot of institutions did struggle, but as a startup, that was, I think, the first sort of big hurdle that we had. So going through that, winning that, and then moving on to the next issue we got into was then the collapse of the government of Afghanistan. So at this point, we are a team of, I believe, 16 people, around 11 staff members in Afghanistan, and some of us globally, including our CTO in the UK. So when the collapse of Afghanistan happened, we given that we're an Afghan startup, and I was on my way to Afghanistan. It's in the UK, delayed my flight for a week, and then the second week, and then the third week, and then the country collapses. And I'll get into the details of that, but we initially pivoted from using the handmade side to supporting people. And how did we do that? I can get into the details of that. Fast forward to today, we have helped 500,000 people through the Aseel platform with urgent supplies, We have responded to natural disasters. We have done this whole thing through a transparent mechanism that is fully trackable, end to end, and gives you the access to identity of these beneficiaries, or ability for you to give the identity of these beneficiaries to us and look through real-time distribution of emergency food items to these people. So we have proved two things on the do good and the buy good side. On the do good side, with this Christmas season right now, we've gotten over 10,000 handmade artisan products sold from Afghanistan. We also have a Turkey Aseel operations for the handmade. So overall, a very big win for globally the international development community, more of the startup side, not the institution side, because we used to work on a project, it's over $140 million for trade in Afghanistan. I don't think it got me this excited, but this first time, that first sale, and now to getting to 10,000 artisan products sold, and hopefully, all of you can join me. I'll go through the process of, okay, how can you buy things? I think if you give it another 2 days, you will get your orders before Christmas. So that would be good. So that's on the buy good side. And then on the do good side, the humanitarian side, we've helped 500,000 people. What I'm really proud of is the fact that this whole assistance to the people, the money for this has came from everyday people. We have had over 10,000 Americans, everyday Americans, start campaigns or donate packages, or give us information of the family, and then they have found other families and friends in the US who have been able to fundraise and get all of this assistance to the people. So we're not tied to any government globally, and we have not received any funding from larger institutions. This whole effort has been made possible on people on this side and then people on that side. We like to think of ourselves as a people-run company, and we'll get to the details of what that really means. So for the last 5 years, I have been pushed by different institutions to get the Aseel pitch to 2 minutes. I'm really good at giving a 2-minute Aseel pitch, so bear with me. I have 30 minutes here, and I'm very excited. Right, so now we'll get a little bit deeper into the humanitarian side, which is the do good. The highlight in here is the overhead, the first $1 million that Aseel processed in humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan, obviously all coming from American people, other people from all around the world, using our app, using our website. Again, not against institutions. We work with the institution, and we're working with bigger institutions as well to try to get them to use the right tool. But the first $1 million that we processed in aid to Afghanistan, our overhead was 16%. Most of the details of how we calculated this and who the beneficiaries are, who the donors are, all of this detail is available, and we can share it with other institutions to really learn from and also engage with us with an overhead of 16%. Now, globally, if we do a comparison of that with WFP, they are at, I believe, 36% globally. In Afghanistan, given that it's a conflict-affected state, their overhead is at over 50%. And that's from the last IFSAC, food security and agriculture cluster that UN conducts in Afghanistan. They openly have mentioned multiple times in the past that their overhead is at over 50%. Now, think of that. When the whole country collapsed, there was a $4.4 billion call by the UN to support the people of Afghanistan. And so thinking of that, you're looking at least $2.2 billion at overhead cost. and the call for more money, more money, more money just keeps on coming. And we think more money is great, but we also need to look at a practical solution of feeding people in Afghanistan. And the alternatives or the old-fashioned way of how we've been doing things is out of date. It has certainly not helped the people of Afghanistan to the degree that it would be acceptable. Now, acceptable being nobody dies of hunger. It's a very critical issue. We need to work on real solutions in here to this problem, and we think we are on the path to getting there. With what we have right now and the kind of expansion we've done on our own, we're pretty proud of what we have achieved, and we have an absolute great strategy that is very practical, and we know that we can either get rid of the whole humanitarian crisis, or at least get the severity from this really deep red to a yellow, and then from a yellow, hopefully, to a green. As Lisa mentioned, we're covered by multiple media agencies, and I think part of that is just the team in Afghanistan and other colleagues that we have all around the world, and their story being such individual driven or group driven or Afghan focused, that and as we were going through this whole process, there's a lot of stories. There's all these staff members and team members that we have have portrayed that in different articles. So I encourage you guys to sort of go through that if you get the time. And in terms of impact, this number is a little bit out of date from I think 2 months ago, but we have now reached over 500,000 people that we have supported, and in 28 provinces of Afghanistan. This is also, we're very proud of our Atalon members, which are the heroes that do the distribution. So I'll dive a little bit more deeper into how this model really works. On the one side, you have everyday users who use our app. And you can go to the App Store, any App Store, and really download the platform, or go to aseelapp.com and start understanding how you can engage with this platform. So on the one side, you have our users who globally donate money, they track beneficiaries, they create campaigns, and they share the different campaigns with different people. And overall, they support causes. These users are not just they're not just individuals. We also have institutions that have usernames in Aseel, and they do different things with that. And so you could think of an institution creating a list of 100 beneficiaries and assigning them Umaid IDs. Umaid means hope, and that's the identification system that we use for our beneficiaries. I don't like that word beneficiary, but for the sake of communication, I would use it here. Now, I'm hearing some background noise. On the other hand, we have the Atalon network, which is basically Uber Eats drivers, and these people are, we have 180 of them with us, fully registered, that use our platform. It's another app called Atalon, and they go to the local shops. They are able to get the packages from there and deliver it locally to vetted people with their Umaid ID cards. This is how an Umaid ID card looks like. In some cases, we've done larger distributions, and in other cases, on a daily basis, there is deliveries going on all over Afghanistan. So in short, taking a step back, I know this can be a lot of information. What happens through the platform? people create campaigns. So let's say my name is Mark and I'm in Virginia, and I somehow was involved in Afghanistan, or I just care about Afghanistan. And so I go out there and research and say, hey, the people of Uruzgan are going through humanitarian crisis. So I create a campaign. I send that campaign to 200 people that I know, my friends, family, my organization, my soccer team, and so on. And so we raise money, $2,000. With that $2,000 in the platform, we purchase emergency packages. I know winter is coming right now, so I'm going to buy winter packages. How many packages is that? The calculation is done by the system. You raise the money. It doesn't come from you. Somebody donates $5, somebody donates $10, somebody donates $1,000. The overall pot is filled. With that, you buy the packages. The packages are then either because you worked in so-and-so organization in Afghanistan, and now you have a list of 100 people, you can either come up to the system and assign those 100 people Umaid IDs, and I'll go through that process. It just works like magic, and it's something that I enjoy a lot. So you raise money, you buy the packages, and then you assign those packages to beneficiaries through the Umaid ID card. Once you have assigned them to these Umaid ID cards, no matter wherever they are in Afghanistan, and hopefully in the future anywhere in the world, the local drivers per se, the Atalan, the heroes, are notified. And within, right now in Afghanistan, we work with quite a few shops in different provinces of Afghanistan, and we also work with wholesalers. This is all local economy. We don't have an international staff in Afghanistan who are like the UN, people flying from New York, getting all these planes, chartering all these things, getting things from neighboring countries, putting them in planes and taking them over there. And you have armored vehicles, and then you have armored camps and stuff. None of that exists. It's just you raising money, buying a package, assigning it to beneficiaries, and then somebody on that end, just like you, a human being, going to a local shop, picking the product and delivering it. And by the end of the day, you also get an Amazon type photo, which is just extraordinary. All of this is OFAC compliant. We've went through a full review, and we have open APIs in case other institutions want to come in and monitor our work. This is, I believe, top of the game in the humanitarian space. So I'll go through a little bit of how this whole thing happens. As I mentioned, we're a tech company, so I'd like to get in action. I'll just open two tabs in here. So this is the emergency food package, large emergency winter package. There's multiple packages, and hopefully in the future will also enable direct cash transfers to people. So the large emergency food package contains 245 kilograms of wood, a heater, and 3 bottles of wood burner. When you sit here in the US, places, and it's all warm, it's all great. It's important to really think of other people out there who need this wood in order to survive, families, kids, and all of that. So I think this doesn't look really flashy, but I'm very, I know the power of systems. When you go out there and you look at companies like Stripe, who are processing a ton of payments on a second basis, or you look at Uber Eats, I saw a report in the area that I live in, Arlington, our Aseel HQ, every day there's over 1 million deliveries happening. And most of that just comes down to this very intuitive interface. And this is something that when I was leaving all these, working with these bigger institutions, this is the kind of thing that I was thinking about that would excite me the most. So this is a package. I have $95. We're not talking billions of dollars or millions of dollars. We need to get this down to $95 so we can involve everyday people. It's something that I really didn't like when I was in Afghanistan was, the exposure of Afghanistan just being a war country, and then the exposure of America being, a country that is that's here with the whole military and the whole, I think eventually we were not really able to connect an everyday American with an everyday Afghan. And I think that $95 does a good job. So again, I'm Mark sitting here, and I want to help somebody. So if I know somebody, so click on someone I know in Afghanistan, used to work in one of these PRTs, and there was this guy, I help him. So does the person have an Umaid ID? In most cases, if the person is new to the platform, they have not issued Umaid IDs in the past, so just say no, and I'll just add the details of the person that I'm trying to help, and then the local Atalan member in Afghanistan is going to call them, do a household survey, get their biographic information, issue them a card, and then at that point, you really know who these people are. When we started initially, we were focusing on disabled people. I'm very passionate about this. I want to make sure, we help disabled people all around the world, obviously, but given that, we're in Afghanistan, I think it's a no-brainer to really help people who are disabled, because there's no other system out there. That's the first thing that I asked all the Atalan members to go out there and register anybody disabled. And hopefully by the end of next year, we'll have all the disabled people in Afghan registered, and we have some kind of funding mechanism to make sure they get their necessary supplies. Second, we went into supporting women who were academics, teachers, and so on, and they're not able to, they lost their jobs after the Republic collapsed. And so other specific areas as well that we have a huge list of pending people. I think over 400,000 families that need support right now. They're identified, they're issued Umaid ID cards, and we hope to, every time we have an NPR, a PBS report, a bunch of people come into our platform, and then we get, 20,000 families supported. And so hopefully we get this to zero, and we get more active and start adding more people and really have this lifeline for them. So in this case, the person didn't have an Umaid ID. I put all this information. Let's say the person has an Umaid ID. So they have an Umaid ID number 66. I add that here. There is a validation for me, who is the person, to understand I'm not sending it to somebody else. I buy this package, I use my credit card, I use my PayPal, I can use crypto, any sort of mechanism in the West that we're used to. You can go through that, and in the package, if the person is in Kabul, will be delivered in 24 hours. If they are outside of Kabul, it will be delivered in 48 hours. And we've been stuck to this SLA very hard, and we keep on pushing to make sure, because it's a life and death situation in most cases, where a family needs assistance and somebody wants to help them. If it gets later than that, then it would be bad. But at the same time, given that all these Atalan members are sitting there and waiting for orders, because they get paid just like Uber Eats drivers here in America, or delivery drivers in the UK, or other platforms, Gorillas in Germany, and Gitter in Turkey, you name it. Every country has a delivery system nowadays. So that's direct aid. Now, compare this to WFP, give $95 to WFP in their website. They're like, thank you very much. And that's it. That's not where we stop. That's where we start. All right. So I don't know anyone in Afghanistan. I just heard about it in the news, saw the tragic incidents, and I just want to help. So I just say, let Aseel decide. With that, I buy a package, and I will still get this package mapped to an Umaid ID and start getting updates on what's the process of that. It works like magic, right? It's pretty great. Now, we also did some grand challenges. So this is a disaster fund that we have created. I will also go through the handmade sector in a little bit details. So this is responding to a blast in Barchi that happened over a month ago. And as you can see, we've raised over $100,000 for this cause. And there are multiple campaigns that people have created that feed into this grand challenge. There is multiple grand challenge. We have the winter season that just launched, I believe, last week. And so as I mentioned, it's cold out there. I think it's going to, it's probably snowed in some areas already. So love to see institutions and individuals supporting this cause and just looking at it by themselves at how this whole thing is done. We also have a child relief and also looking at 50 Afghan women in tech and trying to raise for that as well to sort of focus on that educational and tech leadership aspect as well. So that's on the a little more detailed version of what we're doing on the do good part. Now, moving into back where we started, the buy good, this is an interesting area. And I was really inspired by Etsy, what Etsy does. Etsy is a publicly traded company, $16 billion now, and they sell, they enable people to, and a lot of people love Etsy. You probably know about it. And they enable people to sell their products to other people. The handmade sector is a huge market. It's valued at over $2 trillion in total. Now, the problem with this is if you are here in the US or in other countries, and you go to, say, a carpet shop that's close to you, and you look at an Afghan carpet, it's very culturally, promoted in the past 50, 60 years ago. It somehow made its way all the way to the US, to other Western countries. And so the problem in here is when you buy the handmade carpet from a guy, say in Tyson's Corner here in Virginia, or in Santa Barbara in California, the product has came through a process which everybody else, say the artisan gets paid the least money and the customer pays the most money. In between, everybody else is having a blast, making a lot of money in the process. So why is that so? Say the artisan is in Aqcha province, and is in Mazar-e-Sharif, just outside Mazar in Aqcha, which is where a lot of the carpet makers are. And so they sell their product somebody in Kabul. Probably, it takes 3 months for those of you who don't know how an Afghan handmade carpet is made. A family sits there, works for 3 months, creates an amazing carpet. They sell it to somebody in Kabul, make a living so they can sustain themselves. The guy from Kabul sells it to somebody in Karachi. From Karachi, it goes to Istanbul. From Istanbul, it goes to Germany. From Germany, it comes to, Tyson's Corner. In the process, the carpet price at least triples. The customer pays that money, thinking that this impact is going directly to the artisan, but it's not. So what do? Is we connect the artisan directly to the customer. Let's see some Afghanistan, why not? Okay, so I'll take you some of our artisans. First off, I think let's go to Google Maps, why not? So for some of you who don't know Afghanistan, we can give you a view. This is how Afghanistan looks. This is Kabul, the capital. And so let me check which vendor. So this is Istalifi Pottery Shop. So Istalifi Pottery Shop is located in Istalef, out here, somewhere here. Okay. Yep, right here. So this is Istalef. Drive like 40 miles away from Kabul, and you get there. This is a story of an artisan. Istalef is known for these pottery, and some of you have been to Afghanistan, obviously, and for others who haven't, the little village is known for pottery all these years. They do amazing work. Story, video, and buy the product directly. $10, with shipping cost included, sometimes higher than the price right now because of the supply chain issues, but very practical. The price of these things is the local price plus 15% plus shipment. 15% is the exact number that we have for Aseel, and even if the artisan wants to sell it on $1, it's their product. They need to be able to sell it. So we're not this fancy institution that comes in and sells this for $300 just because it comes from Afghanistan. We think real empowerment really happens is if you give them the access to their customers, the access to their pricing, the access to everything, and we work just like Etsy works for people here, just like any other platform. So that's a great example. Would love to go through the video. My colleagues do a pretty amazing job. I don't think we have the time for that. Now, this is Nuristan fashion. Again, you go back to the map somewhere here, up top with, yep, that's here. Nuristan is here. A lot of movies on how, war and, how a lot of special forces, Marines and stuff like that. There's all those movies of war and Nuristan. I think nobody has really looked into the culture side of it. Let's see. Maybe they spell it this way. Yep, this is Nuristan fashion. And so it's video, a lot of information, the video of who the guy is, the product, buy it, delivered hopefully to you before Christmas. And I think another vendor that I really liked, and I went to visit them, was Bamyan Weavers. It's a group of women in Bamyan province. Again, if you go back here in the middle, somewhere here. Yep, that's Bamyan right there. It's got a pretty bad road, so it'd probably take you like 4 or 5 hours to get there. And so this is the Bamyan Weavers. All these women get together. They used to go to the mountains twice a week to create these products and mostly do embroidery. After getting a lot of sales with us, they now have a little workshop, and we hope they keep on selling, and you guys can buy through Aseel, and they can expand their operations and hire more people to create more products. What do we want to do? By the end of next year, we want to cover every single Afghan handmade product created in Afghanistan to be in our platform. And for that to be able to, for us to be able to sell that all over the US, all over Europe, Australia, and Japan. That's on our buy good side. On the do good side, as I mentioned, we would love to get that severity from deep red to yellow. There's a huge discussion we can have about that, but that's something, of course, we're looking at. We're also expanding to other countries. In a lot of institutions in different countries have reached out to us. We're creating that strategy of how to engage properly without affecting our operations in Afghanistan. A lot of people rely on us, and we don't want to let them down, because it affects people, and they lose their life. There's a lot of engagement we have with different institutions. We'll go through that. And yeah, I think there's opportunities for individual campaigners, go out, create a campaign. Individual buyers, go out, buy a handmade product. Institutions, work with us to identify people. If you have identified people, we can do the assistance delivery to them. And also on a macro level, from a country perspective, if we really want to help Afghanistan, we can use this tool. And we want to scale all over Afghanistan. We want to help people. We haven't had any major setbacks because of our decentralized nature, and we think this is the answer to probably not perfect, but working together, we might get close to as good as it can get. And yeah, the whole, thanks to technology, I guess. If it wasn't for technology, I wouldn't be here to start with. So, and it makes life a lot more easier. We all use it, old and young. Today, there's nobody without a phone. And most of those apps you see in your phone are pretty big initiatives that have changed the world. And I urge you to get that lens of institution a little bit, downgraded, and really think of, okay, is there other solutions that we, and I think 500,000 people is a big sort of number for people to really know this solution works. And then also on sustainable development part, I don't think the kind of approaches we had were very helpful. And so what we have now is very realistic, and it helps people. Yes, Lisa, on to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was just a tremendous presentation, and I'm so impressed with your work. Thank you for all that you do, enabling us to reach out and make connections with Afghans through these ways. I have posted your website onto our chat. If anybody wants to go and buy some holiday presents, you can do that now. I would also invite everyone to come on and type in your questions, or let me know that you'd like to ask a question. I've invited my colleague from the University of Notre Dame, Arif Dostiar, to ask a question that he has. Arif.
Good morning, and Salam Nasrat John. Thank you so much. Congratulations on this excellent initiative, and thank you so much, Professor Shirk, for organizing this event. I wanted to ask a couple of questions which may also be on the minds of everybody else. One is on how you do the transfer of the funds that you raise here, because we all know how difficult it is with the banking sector and everything, and how all the system is probably not so common here in the United States. So that would be one of my questions. The other is, this seems like it's a lot of work, and so it might require a large network of people on the ground. I commend the Atalan network that you mentioned. But if could anybody register through the app as a volunteer or a service provider? And if so, what would be the vetting process? I would love to hear some of your insight on those two questions. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Arif. Yeah, so I'll tackle the second question first, because that's what excites me the most. I think if you ask me anything around Kabul, and I don't want this for the rest to say, hey, if you're not from another country, you can't go there. Food delivery companies work all over the world. In Afghanistan, which is probably not as advanced, has 92% signal penetration right now. So you think of all those mountains, there's still signal there, and you can still do deliveries and really do all kinds of transactions if you plan it well and you do it well. So the reason I say that is, if you ask me, streets of Kabul, I would probably guide you. And I'm such a local person in Kabul, which is my city, and that excites me a lot. And so I'm very excited by local, and that's sort of my mission when I started, was to really work with people rather than work with big institutions in DC or in Tokyo or in Berlin. And again, I would love to work with them, but really, if you want a solution, you need to look at the local side. Yes, it's open to everyone. If you go to the website or the app, you can register yourself as an Atalan, and then you will go through the process. And every province has a main lead Atalan member and a deputy, and then those two guys are mainly working with tens of other people, training them, giving them access to the app. And the Atalan member have quite a few jobs. Number one is to register vendors, and that's food vendors and also handmade vendors. So most of these 110 vendors that Aseel has right now, they're registered by the Atalan member. So our staff in Afghanistan is probably 30 people at max. Most of them are in Kabul. Others work remotely. We also have a lot of software developers. So we have left the community to do most of this work. They register shops, they register vendors, they add handmade products. So that beautiful photography of items that you are seeing on Aseel is mostly done by somebody else who is not part of our team. And we know this is how it will expand. When I say, hey, next year we're going to add every single Afghan handmade product, I'm not joking. And if you would have asked me 4 years ago, we started this mission, we thought it would be done by the end of this year, but now with COVID and it's been delayed. So yes, anybody can register. Any shop, for the most part, who is big enough can register with us, and right now, there's some aspects of this software that are not fully automated. So when you buy a package, a message goes to an Atalan member, and then he navigates through and finds the dealer that's there, or works with the head. Eventually, this is all going to be automated. You buy a package, it's going to be exactly like Uber Eats. The experience will be exactly the same. So we think, if we are supposed to say replace WFP or bigger institutions who are out there for Afghanistan, then we would be adding hundreds of thousands of people, Afghans, young people into the platform that will be adding handmade products, that will be delivering the food. They would be adding, every family that is added into the platform needs to go through in the development space, we call them the household surveys. And so we want to make sure we have all that information. So everything is done locally. In terms of security within our system, we're a US-based company. We have data protection. We have all everything is in the cloud. We use the Amazon cloud, and I'm an infrastructure engineer. We have a huge team of security experts who do this, just like you trust Uber. Eventually, we are compliant and liable to our customers in that way. Coming back to the question of the fintech and the supply chain, I think for the first, we started 5 years ago. And so imagine, at the time when the country collapsed, the do-good section was not there, but everything else was there, obviously on a smaller scale than today. So you had the ability to list vendors, you had the ability to list products, you had the ability to buy things on the US side. And so all of these abilities existed, and all we had to do was take a leap of faith, trust ourselves that we might be able to help people. And so we added initially with just 5 products, wood, baby product, a life package, and a food package, small and big. And so those 5 packages, we added them in 2 days. And then from there on, we kept on pushing. So how does payments work? We have our own fintech backend system, and with the World Bank for the few years that I was there, I was always engaged with the Ministry of Finance and the central bank, and digital payments is been in the development space is my expertise area in any way. So since the collapse of the government, we have used crypto, we have used bank transfers with the banks that are there, we have used Hawala, and a mixture of many things, but all of them are processed through our fintech platform, which is Infinity, our backend, and that does round-the-clock matching of names, due diligence on every single beneficiary, every single vendor, and making sure that we are compliant with all the requirements of OFAC, and also the banks in here and the payment processors that are helping us do the transaction. So our fintech, our backend, was probably the most powerful tool at the time when all the major institutions were leaving Afghanistan. We were expanding. This is in August, and I couldn't take our staff out, and they're just a lot of our Atalan is just local Afghan people, and so big on number, and so we were expanding all over Afghanistan in August and trying to help as many people as we could. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Are there other questions from the audience today? You can turn your microphone on and ask directly if you'd like. I'll just say, I think this is just a tremendous effort, and the timing for this is great. For those of us outside of Afghanistan, to show we care, to show our solidarity to Afghans. So I invite everyone watching today to make a donation to Aseel, and to also shop for your holiday gifts online, to buy from Afghan artists. Would anyone like? We have a few more minutes. Yes, Malalai. Yes, come on.
Hello. Thank you so much for this amazing presentation. And honestly, I have to confess that I've heard about Aseel, but I've never been using it. And I was thinking to buy some books maybe for my colleagues as a Christmas gift, but now definitely I will go to your site, and I'm so happy that I can find a lot of things there. Thank you so much. Very quick question. You briefly covered your support for women, but I would like to know if you have any specific plans for supporting the works and arts of women, especially those who are kind of disadvantaged, like the women who are heading households or those widows. I would love to hear about that. By the way, I'm from ICANN, International Civil Society Action Network.
Awesome, Malala. Yes, so I think in short, we prioritize supporting real support, though, giving real support to Afghan women as they are the primary victim of all this war and the issues that's been going on in this humanitarian crisis. On the artisan side, over 60% of our artisans right now, that's a huge number, 110 artisan groups, over 1,000 artisans, over 60% of them are woman-owned or woman-operated businesses. This next week, we're launching the 50 Afghan Women in Tech initiative. And then in addition to that, there is numerous campaigns within Aseel that directly are designed for women, and anybody can just go ahead and start a campaign today for any woman-specific cause. In some cases, we are also able to give cash directly. We're still working on mechanisms to that, so hopefully we can find those institutions in Afghanistan, fundraise for them globally, and be able to track their impact directly with the Umaid ID cards. It's in our agenda. We've helped a lot, and as we go forward, we will keep on coming with different plans that can really elevate women within Afghanistan in a real sense.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Another question came in from the audience from Sally Conover. Is Aseel well known in the country, and is there any reaction, positive or negative, from the government?
Yeah, I think we're known internationally with people who are engaged with Afghanistan. In some ways, don't take that as you are exempt from really going out there and advocating for us. I think Aseel, the way we've designed it, is in the amount of work that's went into it is a real solution to the problem. And for that, you don't really have to do a lot. You can do it through your app. So please advocate for us. Not a lot of people know about us. Within Afghanistan, we haven't done a lot of marketing because what we really want is resources from other countries that's flowing in there, but every single person out of this 500,000 people who have been given Umaid IDs, they have the Umaid IDs. The Umaid ID has a QR code, and usually if they know somebody outside Afghanistan, they would send a photo of that and be like, hey, donate to me. So you just go through that QR code and you give them a package right there within the platform. So that helps us with the virality within Afghanistan. Then we have our Atalan members, our team members. We haven't really done a lot of TV commercials and things like that. We're still a startup. We're still, bootstrapped. We're not backed by any bigger institution. And for the most part, we're very cautious when we deal with these institutions to make sure that we keep the platform alive and not make it into a political tool for parties. In the past and now, we haven't really had any major issues, because say you're sending a package or doing a distribution in Mazar, or you're doing it in Badakhshan, everything is done locally. And so those people know the beneficiaries, those people know the shops, and all we do is sometimes facilitate the payment. For the most part, those shops have a presence in Kabul, and so we deal with them there. And then eventually, for verification, we have one Atalan goes and takes the family's information, the other Atalan goes and verifies that and gives them the Umaid ID card. So everything is decentralized, and that's been and to be honest and frank, by the end of the day, we're a grocery and a handmade seller shop, so nobody really has a problem with that. We haven't taken any sides since we started, so that also helps.
Thanks so much. We have one final question and then we'll call this to a close. The last question is, have any implementing partners of USAID worked with Aseel, and how do you monitor the process?
So not in a big sort of corporate agreement or a big grant, anything. We haven't really worked with USAID, other than one time when we added, I believe, 16 vendors in Afghanistan. DAI came up to us and said, hey, can you get these vendors in the platform? We added them. It was a very small project. We have also not really went out to these institutions because as we would love to work with these institutions if they can really add value. But for the most part, with WFP and other institutions, there has been reluctance from their side, because this might actually become a replacement for their institutions. Yeah, we haven't really worked with major institutions yet. And I look forward to changing the mindset into more cooperation and really, as I mentioned, getting from that deep red to yellow and adding all those handmade products of Afghanistan into the platform, and giving people a real lifeline. They don't really have that right now, and these institutions have miserably failed at giving people a lifeline. The system collapsed. It wasn't that people did anything wrong, but for the most part, they have to pay the price. And also on this side, the American taxpayers pay so much money to USAID, to the government, and UN and others that goes there, but eventually they also have to buy these packages now. These packages didn't come from a big sort of bank there. It just came from people's credit cards, and for that I'm very thankful, and I know that's where people that receive these packages also know. They don't know that this came from America. They know that this came from Mark from Virginia, and that's the power of platforms that has really enabled us to do this.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time explaining how this works to us. It's really inspiring. It's an excellent example of technology supporting humanitarian assistance and development, but also helping us to build people-to-people relationships and to support peace. So thank you so much for being here today. I want to remind everyone, this is a dual hosted program. The Alliance for Peacebuilding has a working group on digital peacebuilding. If you'd like to sign up to receive notices of our future events and this idea of 50 Afghan women in tech sounds like another future program that we could host. Please email Nick Zarowski. His email is here in the chat. This has also been co-sponsored by the University of Notre Dame's Afghanistan program on peace and development. We also have a separate webinar series. You can go to our website where you can see all of the programs and Afghan peace building that we have tried to focus on. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you, Aseel.
Allah Hafiz.